what we see happening across the United States of America. And I broke it down to you guys from a C student's perspective about the mathematical issues that's facing us, right? How inflation continues to keep you poor, regardless of how much money that you win or you make. There's never going to be enough because, in a general sense, all of those costs are then passed over into the customer in the middle class, which is then basically a hidden tax to incentivize you to keep you in debt in order to make sure that we keep this machine rolling, baby. Yes, yes, yes. I'm going to break it down for you from a C student's perspective. We are going to do the work today. So the question that you ask yourself is pay gap. How does CEO compensation or executive compensation work, right? I see so many people saying that they should start a business, or you need to get into the C-suite, or how it is that you're supposed to negotiate your salary. And so many different conversations are being had to keep the people asleep, especially UAW members. And they're looking at what happened over at UPS and the Teamsters negotiating. And now we're starting to see more and more layoffs at different plants and even supplier plants. And then you see people that's laying off staff with regard to the restaurants and dealerships and different industries, and everything is being disrupted. And then you see Sean Fain over there, and he's giving you this agenda of the big companies and the CEOs, and he's saying, listen, they just want to continue to throw rockets into space, and we don't care about what's going on with Elon Musk. Meanwhile, Elon Musk is leveraging this information and what's going on with the UAW and all of the other Japanese and Korean automakers and the German automakers that's down south and out west. And they're saying, listen, look what they members is going through. They messed up out there. It's toe up out there. You don't want to be a part of the union. And so you see all of these different factors that's playing into what it is that we see happening in society. But the question that we have to ask ourselves is, what's true? What's not? What makes sense? And then what's best for me? So this is what I need you to do before we get into this. Make sure you tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. Also on top of that, make sure that you get into that Teach Hanley 30% off your first order plus a free gift. And are you ready to cook up? Because I want to talk about the pay gap. I want to talk about CEO pay. Hey, buddy. What is going on here? I want to talk about the pay gap and I want to talk about CEO pay. Let's get into it.
That parking lot is normally full Monday through Friday. Now it's empty due to the fact that we are on strike. We are fighting for what we deserve.
Now, this is a video on a regular basis, what we see happening, and let me help you to understand something. I don't have a dog in a fight, so it's easy for me to be objective, right? I'm not on the side of the CEOs or the automakers because I'm not an automaker CEO. I'm not an executive over in the C-suite. I get no bonus as a result of this at all, right? I have no vested interest in it. I'm not invested in Ford. I'm not invested in GM. I'm not invested in Stellantis. It doesn't mean anything to me. I do have stock in Tesla, so let me be very, very clear about that. But I have no dog in the fight, so it's very easy for me to be objective about what's going on. I'm just going to give you my thoughts, right? So this video specifically, and this is content that's being put out by unions and then different spaces that's attached to the union in order to basically have a conversation about their side of the pay gap and why they're advocating for it and they're fighting for more money from the automakers, okay? So I want to give you the full context of what's going on here. We want to get it from both sides. We want to get it from the executive side. We seen Mary Bear over there stumble because she wasn't situationally aware. She wasn't paying attention to what happened with the Oprah video, and so she didn't know no better. And then you got to pay attention to what's going on over the UAW side, right? The unions, the people. Fight for the people. You know what I seen yesterday? You know what I seen yesterday as I was walking through the airport in Metro Detroit to take my flight over here to Dallas? You know what I seen yesterday? I think Bernie Sanders was in the airport yesterday with a mask on, walking around. Can't be sure. Wasn't really interested in going up to him. He probably had some Secret Service around him somewhere. But I'm pretty sure that Bernie Sanders has been in Metro Detroit advocating for and having a conversation about what is going on with the United Auto Workers. I'm like 98, 99% sure Bernie Sanders was in DTW catching a flight to wherever it is that he was catching a flight to. Wasn't Bernie Sanders over in Detroit advocating for what was going on with the United Auto Workers? And he was rallying with the workers on the picket line and stuff like that. I'm like 1,000% sure I seen Phil LeBurn inside of DTW yesterday, but I can't be sure. I cannot be sure. I'm almost 100% sure I seen him. But let's get into the video.
You can't expect these workers to make cars they can't afford to buy. This is just not about the UAW. This is about all active employees across the United States, because what happens here will happen everywhere.
But it's been a long time coming. It's history in the making.
No deal, no wheels.
For the first time in history, the United Auto Workers Union is striking against all big three automakers at once.
About 12,700 workers committed to a work stoppage at 3 locations.
The UAW is demanding pay raises of more than 40% for its members to match the pay raises of CEOs of the companies.
The strike became official overnight when that midnight deadline hit without a deal.
All of you know that there was once a time.
I have not seen this video yet. I have not seen this video yet. That is the honest to God truth on my father's life. On my father's grave. On everything. I have not watched this video. I am watching it for the first time, just like you guys. You guys sent it to me in my email. It is the first time that I'm watching this video. I have not seen this video yet. You want to put 2 and 2 together or no? You want to put 2 and 2 together or no? Or will we sitting here acting crazy, or you want to put 2 and 2 together or no?
When a union job in the automobile industry was the gold standard for the working class in America. Well, we are determined to bring those days back again.
What do we want? When do we want it? And if we don't get it?
Look at the people that's at the forefront of, do y'all know who this woman is? Do y'all know who this woman is? Huh? Rashida. Y'all know who Rashida is? Do y'all know who she is? You probably not even familiar. You haven't even been watching her in the news, have you? Over the last 4 or 5 years, she coming up, she's leveraging the same fame and the same visibility as AOC. You're not even familiar with her, is you? Are you? You're not familiar with it? You have no, listen, you think that these politicians are on your side? Oh my God, man.
Do we want it? And if we don't get it?
Peers put one man higher than another, and it shouldn't be that way, because you got 2 people that do the same job at the same time. Tier 1 gets to enjoy his family working 40 hours a week. The Tier 2 guy has to work 60 to 70 hours a week just to make the same amount of pay that you're close to the Tier 1 guy. He goes home at night, he can't even hold his baby no more because he can barely hold his hands. Spends time soaking in hot baths because he can barely move.
The big three, they have all them CEOs, they have no idea what it feels like to be able to wake up in pain almost every day, because we work those 6 to 7 days out the week and we have no time to rest our bodies. They don't understand that, and they don't get what it's like trying to.
That, ladies and gentlemen, are people causing a disruption down there on Jefferson Avenue in Woodward, sitting there marching in front of the GM building and causing a problem for this great city that we're building up, right in front of the Huntington Place, which is basically hosting the North American International Auto Show as we speak. Just so happened at the strike time, just so happens to be at the time that they can take visibility away from the North American International Auto Show, which is a very subdued event lately because of what's been going on with the pandemic and also with the strike now. And so they're marching right there in Detroit at Hart Plaza. And you see Bernie Sanders and Rashida as a part of the 4 or whatever they was, right? And they're making sure that they're marching for the contract that they want with the Detroit automakers, because they're UAW strong. I'm just giving you the points.
Figure out if you're going to be able to eat or put food on your family's table.
See?
The next day. They don't get that at all.
If we signed up for the UAW's request, instead of making money and distributing $75,000 in profit sharing in the last 10 years, we would have lost $15 billion and gone bankrupt by now.
You've seen a 34% pay increase in your salary. You make almost $30 million. Why should your workers not get the same type of pay increases that you're getting. We think we have a very competitive offer on the table, and that's why we want to get back there and get this done.
Last year, these companies spent $9 billion not to improve the lives of their workers, but to pay for stock buybacks and dividends to make their wealthy stockholders even richer.
Now, I will tell you this, because Bernie Sanders is going to pitch you this, and they're going to say, hey, listen, automakers spent $9 billion on stock buybacks and dividends in order to make their wealthy shareholders even wealthier, right? Now, fair pitch, maybe some half-truths in there, but what's the whole truth? Is that these are publicly traded companies. A publicly traded company is usually a company that's listed basically in a stock exchange. A stock exchange allows for you to then be able to invest in it as a normal everyday person versus it just being privately owned. You have access to invest in a company and do research on it, look at all of their calls and their analyst calls and their profits every quarter and so on and so forth in order to make an informed decision of whether or not you want to invest in a company. Now, here's the other side of that though, right? Regular everyday people, people that are using their 401ks, people that are investing in a company, every single day, there's regular everyday people that are not necessarily wealthy, but is invested in the interest of that company in order to see it successful. So there's both. There's regular people, there's institutional investors, there's people that put their 401ks or their regular stock brokerage, their brokerage accounts, they're leveraging that in order to invest in a company, hoping that it's profitable, right? There's everyday people that are invested in these companies. It's not just, it's anybody that is a shareholder in the company, right? The goal is to bring more value by making a company profitable, even more profitable. So you raise the stock price and you raise the amount that they then start to distribute as a dividend basically being that quarterly amount that goes into your bank account based off of how many shares that you own. So if I own 10 shares, then I get whatever the dividend payment for that quarter is times 10, okay? So stock buybacks is meant to increase the value of the company by having less shares outstanding on the market. All right, let me break it down from this perspective. Let's say for a general perspective that the company is valued at, your company is valued at $1 million, okay? And there's 1,000 shares, basically dividing that up, and then all those shares multiplied, then substantiates the valuation of the company. So you got 1,000 shares, you divide that 1,000 into the million, right? And that's how many shares you have outstanding. Now, what is one of the ways that you can raise the valuation of other people's shares? Well, it's a lot of different ways that they can do it, right? They can do stock buybacks. They can then distribute the profits over into the investors of the company. So basically they get a share of the profits depending on what that dividend is, right? And so it's a lot of ways that they can increase the value of the company, right? The company becomes more profitable, and so thus the multiples by which the company is valued at then increases, right? You can do stock splits and then make it more accessible to more people. And there's a lot of different ways that companies become more valuable, but it all comes back down to this. Is the company profitable to begin with? And then can they start to redistribute those profits back over into the shareholders? So stock buybacks just increases the value of the company. If you have a share in that, right? You got an ESPP plan, an employee stock purchase plan. You are a white collar worker or you're a software engineer and you negotiate a part of your pay package to be equity in the company, meaning that they give you stock valuation instead of giving you a paycheck or giving you a bonus, or they give you some combination of both. You get what your value is that you contribute into the company. It's not just based off of just what you negotiate. It's based off of the value that you add into the company. So CEOs decide that they want to negotiate not to get a check because they also want the tax benefits to come along with it. They don't want to have to pay an egregious amount of taxes. They'd rather tie their compensation to the performance of the company. Now, why would the shareholders and why would the board then allow for the CEOs to do that? Why would the shareholders and the board allow for the CEOs to do that? Why would they negotiate their pay package? Because They have executive recruitment teams. They go and look for the best of the people that they think can steer the company in the right direction. They need them to do the right thing for the company in order for them to continue to remain profitable. The board is basically made up of people that have a vested interest in the company. They are the ones that give the CEOs their job. It's not the CEOs. They don't get themselves a job. They don't own the company. They answer to the board of directors, right? They answer to the shareholders. They answer to whoever it is owns the shares outstanding. So why would they then pay them such an egregious amount of money? Think about it. Why would the board give the CEOs or the executive team or whoever it is that they're moving through the company, why would they give them so much money? Why would they give them so much equity in the company? Ask yourself that question, right? As we continue to have this conversation, and I'm going to play the video. But before I play the video, let me show you what executive compensation is looking like across the board. This is the 10 highest paid CEOs, according to CNBC, over the last year in the United States of America, and some of them pulling over $200 million a year. Now, on average, the automaker CEOs, right, are nothing compared to Elon Musk. Elon Musk, his entire portfolio, his entire net worth is largely tied to the performance of Tesla. So when Tesla falls, or Tesla has an issue, or Tesla has a recall, or people like to overregulate, or they get sued, or then investors start to sour on Tesla, Elon Musk could literally lose $1 billion, $2 billion, $3 billion, $4 billion in net worth overnight as a result of the company performance going down or the valuation of the company going down. That's how he got so rich, is that his compensation is largely tied to the performance of the stock. And why would the shareholders do that? Why would the board of directors do that at all? Come on, I need you to pay attention. Pay attention. Because the only thing you're looking at is how much you make per hour. The only thing you're looking at is how much you make per year. The only thing you're looking at is how much you got to pay in taxes. I need you to understand executive compensation so that you can then start to make more informed decisions on a career path and how it is that you start to do things from a business perspective. Why would the shareholders, why would the board give them so much money? Why would they give them so much money? Why, when we go through this article of the top 10 highest paid CEOs, Tim Cook at Apple, no Apple employee is sitting there whining about the pay of Apple. You know why? It's because a lot of their compensation is largely tied to the performance of the company also, and so they need people to do the thing that's in the best interest of the company. Ask any software engineer how many shares that they get awarded every year. How much compensation they get awarded every year. When can they sell it? Ask anybody that's a part of the startup why they're willing to take a lower base salary in order to possibly go public, do an IPO, an initial public offering with that company. You know why? Because when Twitter went public, everybody got rich. When Facebook went public, everybody got rich. Whoever it was that was a part of that whole ecosystem, everybody got rich because they had a share in the company. And so what you see happening with auto workers is that the UAW negotiated profit sharing. So basically they said, listen, at the end of the year, based off of the profitability of the company, we want to share in the profits, because they wasn't getting that before. And so they reinstituted profit sharing once the company started to become successful again in order to try to make sure that they appeased the union. They wanted the people to have a vested interest in the company becoming successful. The more money that the company makes, the more profit sharing you get. It's not entirely tied to how much you make per hour. So that's why employees over at within the UAW, over at Ford, Chrysler, and GM, they get profit sharing checks now because they have a vested interest in seeing the company successful. But what they didn't negotiate is equity into the company. Now, you can convert that money over into profit sharing, but you can't necessarily be awarded the equity. And what happens is the union gets their union dues out of your money, and you immediately get taxed at the highest tax rate as a result of it. So the thing that, first of all, the union members should be going to the table with is saying, listen, we don't want checks with regard to profit sharing anymore. We want checks with regard to equity in the company. That way we can defer the amount of money that we have to pay in taxes. We're not having to pay the union their union dues out of our checks. And on top of that, we don't have to pay it at the highest tax rate because they automatically tax you at the highest tax rate when you get that profit sharing check. You get that $10,000 check, you get that $20,000 check, you get that $15,000 check, you automatically going to be giving 33% over into the federal government. CEOs don't do that. Their compensation is largely tied to the equity that they get. And then when the company continues to go up in value, eventually when they have to sell it, which was one of the reasons why Elon Musk bought Twitter, because he had to divest himself, he had to get rid of the shares in order to then, because they had vested so much, but they had made so much money because the value of the company had went up so high, his compensation was largely tied to the success of the company. So now, when the board members come through and they say, listen, we're going to give you X amount of shares that'll be valued at X depending on your performance of the company, that means that they're incentivized to work their ass off, eat, sleep, breathe the company, because they know that their compensation is largely going to be tied to how well the shareholders do. You got a stake in it, I got a stake in it. However well we do is what we all going to profit as a result of. The first thing that the union members should have went to the UAW and said is, listen, we want equity in the company. We don't necessarily want profit sharing checks, so that we all can share in the profitability of the company. Then everybody's pay will be tied to the greatness of the company. Don't you know that Tesla employees, even the ones that's on the floor, get equity into the company? Listen, if you're not getting it, you're going to have to replay this and slow it down. Don't you know that Tesla employees, even the ones that's working on the factory floor, a large part of their performance and how much they get paid is tied into the equity of the company? If you're not a part of the Patreon, you're not a part of the Bag Chasers, please miss me with this Anton Slow Down, C Students perspective. I want you to tie into the Patreon. Make sure that you tap in so we can have this conversation more in depth. Let's look at the 10 highest paid CEOs in the United States of America. Steven Schwartzman, last year for Blackstone, made $253 million. Alphabet CEO. What is Alphabet? It's Google. $226 million. Stephen Scher, Hertz, $182 million. Peloton CEO. Why? Because he has a vested interest in the company. He basically has compensation that's largely tied to the equity of the stock. $168 million. Guess what? They don't even substantiate how much they get paid until they sell. Michael Rapino for Live Nation. Oh, you mean all of those concert tickets that y'all continue to buy all the time? $139 million he made last year. Oracle CEO, $138 million. Douglas Ingram. I don't even know what Sarepta Therapeutics is, but he made $125 million. Pinterest CEO. Y'all don't even like Pinterest. When the last time you went on Pinterest other than to steal a picture? $123 million. Don't you know that Apple is the highest valued company in the world in the trillions of dollars? And Tim Cook's compensation is largely tied to the profitability of the company. And he not even first. He made $99 million last year. So the top 10 CEOs all collectively made billions. Collectively, all together made billions last year. Why? Because it's largely literally tied to the performance of the company. All tied to the performance of the company. This is not a secret. This is information that you choose not to participate in because you don't want to educate yourself. Look, for Bill Reddy, who took at the helm of Pinterest in June 2022, about $101 million of his pay came from stock options, which was awarded in connection with his hiring last year, the Wall Street Journal reports. A Pinterest spokesman told the newspaper that Reddy shouldn't have received any additional equity in the first 4 years on the job. You want to continue over into this? You want to start to understand how their compensation is tied to the company? When Mary Barra said that, everybody just took it at face value and they ran with it with a bunch of clips. But they didn't look to understand the context by which she was actually communicating with you. When she said 92% of my pay package is tied to the equity in the company, tied to the performance of the company, this is what she was breaking down. This is what she was breaking down. Executive salaries, which is nothing. Most of the time, their salaries is just in the hundreds of thousands. It's not even in the millions. Bonuses, perks, stock options, other factors. You know what that means? That means it's called a total compensation package. A total compensation package. That's what it is. All right. So when you see this video, and now that you have a little bit more information on how it is that you can educate yourself on what executive compensation looks like, it's going to start to hit a little bit different as far as the things that they telling y'all to advocate for and what Bernie Sanders is pitching to you.
That parking
Just to make the same amount of pay that you're close to the tier 1 guy. He goes home at night, he can't even hold his baby no more because he can barely hold his hands. He spends time soaking in hot baths because he can barely move.
The big three, they have all them CEOs, they have no idea what it feels like to be able to wake up in pain almost every day because we work those 6 to 7 days out the week and we have no time to rest our bodies. They don't understand that, and they don't get what it's like trying to figure out if you're going to be able to eat or put food on your family's table the next day. They don't get that at all.
If we signed up for the UAW,
That's why we want to get back there and get this done.
Last year, these companies spent $9 billion not to improve the lives of their workers, but to pay for stock buybacks and dividends to make their wealthy stockholders even richer. Meanwhile, the average wage for American auto workers has decreased by 30% after adjusting for
Somebody says somebody in the chat had a disagreement. I got you.
inflation. Do you want to know why you're out on strike right now? That's the reason.
Without our labor, this country couldn't function. They say that we're asking for too much, but really it's the CEOs and the corporate leaders that are having too much. There's no reason that they should be making.
You can never, ever tie your compensation package based off of what you see somebody else making. That's the surest way for you to shoot yourself in the foot. So Kev, somebody said Kev had a disagreement. Don't worry about it, Kev. I dropped the link in the chat for you to be able to come up here. You don't even have to get on camera. If you just want to get a phone call and you just want to have a conversation off camera, you're more than welcome to do so. I opened up the chat for anybody that disagree with me. Feel free to go be able to call in.
Making, 300-400 times more than what I make or what my union brothers and sisters make. Is your time really worth 300 or 400 times more?
Yes, it is. Absolutely. As a matter of fact, every single person should understand exactly what their time is worth. Let me give you the calculation. I tell this to my bag chasers all the time. How much you make per year divided by 8,760. That's how much your time is worth. How much you make per year divided by 8,760. That's how much your time is worth. If you make $100,000 a year, your time is worth somewhere, I believe, $11.60 an hour. That's how much you worth when you're sleeping. That's how much you make when you're awake. That's how much you make when you're brushing your teeth. That's how much you make when you're spending your time with people that don't add value into your life. I dropped the link in the chat for anybody that disagree with me. Educate me. I'm open to it. Educate me. I'm open to it. I don't want to be right by myself. I'm giving the game based off of my own understanding and life experiences. Please help me to understand where I'm wrong. Let me drop the link in the chat for you one more time.
You really work 300 or 400 times harder than we do? No, you don't.
Every human being wants to provide a better life for their family. That's what we work for. That's what we go to work every day for. So a 40% raise, that would finally make us feel like what we're doing is actually respected.
Since 1948, COLA.
And you do not have to. You do not have to be on camera. You don't have to be on camera if you want to come up here and help me to understand or you have a disagreement with anything that I said today, especially with regard to this.
The cost of living adjustment has been part of every single UAW contract until 09. You all took the biggest hit. Plant closures destroyed communities. You guys got rid of coal. You did everything you were supposed to do so you can keep them afloat. And now that you're all struggling, our retirees are struggling, now they want to turn their backs to you.
And y'all gonna let this woman talk y'all into. I don't see nobody in the back. Where's everybody else that wanted to cam up? I don't see nobody in the back that want to have a conversation. Where's everybody that disagree with me? Feel free. You do not even have to be on camera if you do not want to. Feel free to come onto the platform and help me to understand where I'm wrong.
Oh, they give themselves 300 to 4 times more in pay.
And they don't give themselves anything. Every piece of compensation has to be negotiated and it's approved by the board. It's all a lie. It's all a lie. 100%. Listen, let me tell you something. Do y'all know how much the CEO of Ford made? Do y'all know how much the CEO of Ford made back in 2008 when the crisis hit? Alan Mulally, I think that was his name. Back when all of the other automakers was crashing out, do y'all know what the CEO of Ford made? Back in 2014, here, let me pull it up for you. I'm going to pull it up on you on CNN Business. Let me share my screen with you really quickly, and then I'm going to bring you up. For anybody that disagree with me, I'm going to bring you up. Alan Mulally left with a nearly $300 million nest egg and Ford options and shares in his 8 years at the automaker when Chrysler and GM was going bankrupt. Chrysler and GM was going bankrupt, and he steered them through. I think he was a former Boeing executive, and he was rewarded for not only steering them through not going through bankruptcy, but also making sure that they were successful going forward and clearing the path for continuing to hire people back, right, and creating more jobs and not going through the same thing that Chrysler and GM went through, and maintaining the main shareholders' interest in the company instead of filing for bankruptcy. He left with nearly $300 million in his 8 years steering that company through bankruptcy. And that was during the crisis.